A bipartisan approach to tax reform. President Trump's statement on Thursday marked a significant shift in his stance on tax reform. For months, Trump has been pushing for a Republican-only approach to reform, but now he seems to be open to exploring alternative options. The challenges of Republican-only reform. A bipartisan approach to tax reform would require cooperation between Democrats and Republicans. However, this cooperation is not without its challenges. One major obstacle is the fact that Democrats have expressed concerns about the impact of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act on low- and middle-income families. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and doubled the standard deduction. However, these changes have been criticized for benefiting corporations and wealthy individuals at the expense of low- and middle-income families. For example, a study by the Economic Policy Institute found that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act would increase the tax burden on low-income families by 1.4% and reduce the tax burden on high-income families by 2.4%. Democrats have argued that these changes would exacerbate income inequality and reduce the government's ability to fund social programs. The benefits of bipartisan reform. A bipartisan approach to tax reform could offer several benefits. One major advantage is that it would increase the chances of passing meaningful tax reform legislation. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, a Republican priority. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, was a landmark piece of legislation that significantly altered the U.S. tax code. Enacted on December 22, 2017, the TCJA was a major achievement for the Republican Party, which had campaigned on a promise to cut taxes and boost economic growth. The law's provisions were designed to stimulate economic growth, increase competitiveness, and provide relief to individuals and businesses. Key provisions of the TCJA: corporate tax rate reduction. The TCJA reduced the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%, making the U.S. tax code more competitive with other developed countries. Individual tax cuts. The law introduced significant individual tax cuts, including a reduction in the top marginal tax rate from 6% to 37%. Pass-through tax cuts. The TCJA provided tax cuts for pass-through entities, such as partnerships and S-corporations, which are owned by individuals and small businesses. State and local tax, SALT, deduction limitation. The law limited the SALT deduction to $10,000 per year, a provision that has been a contentious issue for many taxpayers. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, New York, told reporters Thursday no formal line of negotiations on taxes has been opened yet between Democrats and Republicans. Representative Maxine Waters, California, top Democrat on the House Financial Service Committee, told The Hill on Thursday there's no chance Democrats would be willing to work with Republicans on tax cuts given the GOP's plan to slash federal safety net programs. None. Absolutely none. Listen, we can't have an administration that's willing to cut the most vulnerable people in our society and then tell us to support them on tax cuts. Hell no, she said. Democrats have been pushing for the cuts to be extended, but they are being met with resistance from moderate Republicans who are concerned about increasing the national debt. Step 1. Understanding the context of the summary. The summary discusses a potential miscalculation by President Trump in his overture to Democrats. This overture is related to efforts to change the tax code. They will overreach on the budget, they will overreach on the spending, and they will overreach on the entitlements, he warned. The GOP tax agenda, a potential overreach? The Republican Party's tax agenda has been a contentious issue, with many Democrats opposing the proposed changes. A divided Congress. The road to tax reform. The 116th Congress, which convened in January 2021, has been marked by a deepening divide between Democrats and Republicans. This divide has significant implications for the country's tax policy, as the two parties have fundamentally different visions for the tax code. In this article, we will explore the current state of tax reform in the United States and the challenges that lie ahead. The Democratic perspective. Democrats have long advocated for a more progressive tax system, where the wealthy are taxed at a higher rate than the poor. This approach is based on the idea that those who have more wealth and income should contribute a greater share of their resources to the public purse. The Democratic Party's tax plan, which was introduced in 2020, includes a range of proposals aimed at reducing income inequality and increasing government revenue. Key components of the Democratic tax plan include plus increasing the top marginal tax rate to 39.6%, plus introducing a minimum tax on corporations, plus closing tax loopholes and deductions, plus implementing a wealth tax on individuals with net worth above $10 million. The Republican perspective Republicans, on the other hand, have traditionally been more supportive of lower tax rates and reduced government spending. They argue that lower taxes will stimulate economic growth and create jobs, while also reducing the burden on individuals and businesses. Reconciliation allows Congress to pass legislation with a simple majority vote in the Senate. The Budget Reconciliation Procedure. The Budget Reconciliation Procedure is a legislative process that allows Congress to pass certain types of legislation without the need for a supermajority vote in the Senate. This process is typically used for budget-related matters, but it can also be employed for other types of legislation that are deemed non-discretionary. Key features of reconciliation allows for the passage of legislation with a simple majority vote in the Senate, exempts reconciliation measures from the filibuster, requires the approval of the President, can be used for budget-related matters and non-discretionary legislation. How reconciliation works. The reconciliation process typically involves the following steps. Introduction of a reconciliation bill. A member of Congress introduces a bill that is deemed non-discretionary and budget-related. Committee review. The bill is referred to a committee, which reviews and marks up the bill. Congress misuses reconciliation to advance party interests over people's needs. But it's not. They're using it to further their own agenda, and it's not about the American people. The misuse of reconciliation in Congress. Reconciliation is a legislative process that allows Congress to pass laws without the need for a presidential signature. It is often used to address budgetary issues and is typically employed by the Democratic majority in Congress. However, in recent years, the Republican minority has also utilized reconciliation to pass legislation that benefits their party's interests. The origins of reconciliation. Reconciliation was first introduced in 1971 as a way to address the growing national debt. The process was designed to allow Congress to pass legislation that would reduce the deficit without the need for a presidential signature. The first reconciliation bill was passed in 1972, and it was used to reduce the national debt by $1.4 billion. The benefits of reconciliation. Reconciliation has several benefits, including the ability to pass legislation without a presidential signature, the ability to address budgetary issues without the need for a presidential signature, the ability to reduce the national debt, the ability to increase government revenue. The misuse of reconciliation. Despite its benefits, reconciliation has been misused in recent years. The Republican minority has used reconciliation to pass legislation that benefits their party's interests, rather than addressing the needs of the American people. He also said that he would hope that Democrats would reach out to Republicans. The bipartisan bill. The bipartisan bill, which was introduced by Representative Darrell Issa, Republican California, and Representative Jan Schakowsky, Democrat Illinois, aims to address the growing issue of online harassment and cyberbullying. The bill, which has garnered significant attention and support from both parties, seeks to provide a framework for addressing these issues and promoting a safer online environment. Key provisions. The bill would establish a national online harassment prevention and response system, which would provide resources and support for victims of online harassment. The bill would also create a National Online Safety and Security Commission, which would be responsible for developing and implementing policies to prevent online harassment and cyberbullying. Additionally, the bill would provide funding for education and awareness campaigns to promote online safety and digital literacy. #The importance of bipartisan efforts *. The importance of bipartisan efforts. The introduction of this bipartisan bill is a significant step forward in addressing the growing issue of online harassment and cyberbullying. By working together, Republicans and Democrats can find common ground and develop effective solutions to this complex problem. Benefits of bipartisan collaboration: increased effectiveness. Bipartisan efforts can lead to more effective solutions, as both parties bring their unique perspectives and expertise to the table.